This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Place to Be Nation, welcome back to PTBN's NBA Team Podcast. I am joined by my co-host, Adam Murray. Adam, we are at the top. It's the cream of the crop. It's more populated than most teams would expect. But remember, we are in the era of parity. I'm saying this like a professor because I feel like I have to teach people that the NBA is not just about two teams that win it all.
Is it?
No, because
Okay.
we have had different champions, I think, for the last 6 seasons. Am I right, or is it 7? It's
We're
been
not
since
back to the every
2019.
year being Golden State and the Cavaliers every year for
We
4
had
years
the
in a row.
potential for the repeat with Boston last year. Injury got him, and just really just a bad play in the second round really upended them there. But I do think we have the best chance of the repeat to happen this time with the Thunder. That's for sure.
You are correct. And with that being said, this group, as sort of has been the underlying theme of every episode, is the new CBA and the second tax apron. Once you get up to that point, you are
The owners
telling
cave in. Yeah.
you are telling the league, I am opening my window for 2 to 3 years. I am going to compete. There is no long-term franchise dominance anymore because
Yeah,
because you
the
get
cap doesn't allow it.
the cap
Mhm.
doesn't allow it. So you are saying, if I'm spending this money, here is my window. So we got teams like Minnesota and New York and Cleveland, the teams we know are going to be good, and the teams that are spending who
You can see
can't
it on the
keep spending
spreadsheet.
this way.
Exactly. Right. And there's only one that, I mean, there might be some teams that, and the luxury tax is weird because you have the first apron and the second apron. There are some teams that are slightly past the second apron where they pay just a little bit of tax.
So yeah, you have one team who's officially over, but everyone with the repeater tax has nothing to do with being so far over, because after 3
Just being over
years,
for consecutive years. That's what it's
yeah,
about.
and then, well, we're gonna freeze picks. We're gonna do this. You lose the
You don't get an
MLE.
MLE. Yeah, you don't get all
And
those
so
exceptions.
everything you needed to stay competitive is now gone. That's why if you're this high up, if your team is so top heavy, then it basically, yeah, if it'd be like Jeff Fox, if your team has more than 3 veteran minimum players on it, you might be a championship caliber team because you're out of money. And that's what it
Yep.
basically is. These teams have run out of money. The CBA has sucked it dry of, this is all you can do.
And you can't even get ring chasers anymore because candidates, once you're past the second apron, are
Yep.
a
So
no-go.
you are announcing, you're raising your hand and saying, I am running for the NBA title this year. Look out for me. And they can only do it for a few years. And like you had mentioned, Cleveland is the only official at this point spending all their way to the end.
Yeah.
So yes, let's
they're
get
gonna
into
have
Cleveland.
they're gonna have by far the biggest tax bill. Oklahoma City had a better record at the end of the year than Cleveland, but Cleveland was running right with them. Like, they had 64 wins. Oklahoma City had 68, and obviously they won the title. Cleveland obviously did not win the title. In fact, they didn't even make the conference finals. They lost in 5 games to the Pacers. All of the Boo Birds came back about Donovan Mitchell. He's not clutch. He's a regular season paper champion type of thing. It was a disappointing end. They did have injuries to Mobley and Garland and Allen that may have upended them as well. But you did feel like they did not perform at the level that they could have in the playoffs.
They were officially a letdown.
Mhm.
Yes, injuries took them out, and it takes out them every year. And
But at some point, you can't keep making excuses. You know?
But they were built to do it, and then they are more or less bringing the entire team back, just swapping out Okoro for Lonzo Ball, which gives you nice point guard depth.
They lost. They didn't have money to keep Ty Jerome.
Ty Jerome.
They signed Sam Merrill. They re-signed Sam Merrill.
Yeah, they re-signed Sam Merrill, and they got Larry Nance Jr. on a veteran minimum deal. So
yeah, and their only rookie really is Tyrese Proctor. So, and I doubt he'll play at all.
They're bringing the team back. last year I was very high on them. This year, not so much.
Okay. Well, I mean, it was easy to be high on them because of the fact that they were probably even with Kenny Atkinson coming in and not really changing the roster, a lot of people thought because they were about a 49 win team, a 50 win team in 2024. A lot of people saw them somewhere in the range of like 55. They blew past those expectations by the end of November. But at the end of the first or second month of the season, everyone knew, oh my God, it's going to be them in Boston for the best record in the East. And it wound up being Cleveland because they never lost any freaking games. Like 5-0, 12-3, 12-1. Their worst record was in April when they were 4-3, when they didn't even have to play. They had no incentive to win games, you know?
But I get the feeling we're all like, how do I put this?
The
How
strength of the
much
team was the offense. The offense was electrifying. Like they were high in field goal percentage, high in threes. Like they did all of that.
how much higher can they go?
Well,
Is Jarrett
what do
Allen
you mean
at
by that?
his
Do you mean the regular season or do you mean the postseason?
with the talent on this roster? The roster is what it is and it has been for 2 years now.
In the regular season, their talent level can't be any higher than they were last year. In the postseason, they can definitely do better. They
But
have the roster to get to a conference finals or a finals.
is Jarrett Allen at his ceiling?
I think he is. He's shot 71% from the field. This is about as efficient of a big man as he'll ever be in the league. Mobley, actually, as good as he is, and he was all NBA, he can actually grow to be better. He can be a double-double guy. He only averaged 9 rebounds a game.
DeAndre Hunter goes from the sixth man to the starter, I would imagine. Because
Right. And there's also word that Strus is going to be out to start the season once again. This happened also last year.
yeah, that's what. So
So you might see a lot of ball.
will DeAndre Hunter instead of being the sixth man, now accept being the fifth option now?
Mhm.
I I
He's a
don't
good player. He can make threes, so he fits well with Cleveland.
I don't have many notes on them because literally they're just running it back. That with Boston and Indiana going out, it's essentially them in New York who are sort of hard penciled into the finals already. So essentially it's theirs for the taking. It's up for them to squander it. And the
Yeah.
more I look at it, I'm trying to find reasons how they might squander it.
And my concern is really, well, it's two. One of my concerns always is playoff Spider, playoff Donovan Mitchell. Like, what's he gonna be? Because I just feel like he always kinds of he sort of like leaves a lot to be desired in the playoffs in terms of his leadership, in terms of playing through injury. He's gotten a calf strain in every playoff for the last 3 years. It's starting to become concerning at his age. He's not getting younger. And Darius Garland. Garland had an all-star season. He had one of his best seasons. But was he just doing that in order to prove that he could fit with the roster? Now he got his extension. He's set on the Cleveland roster, but is he a guy that can be is he a Drew Holiday type? Like when Drew was in Milwaukee? I don't know. I just want to see how Garland and Mitchell can play with expectations, with heavy expectations.
So here's a question here. Failure is not an option for them this year. If they do fail, you got to break this team up, right?
You got to move Garland immediately. Like if you're Kobe Altman, the first thing is we got to find a way to get rid of Garland. If you have to attach a pick to it, so be it. I know they
I
gave up
wouldn't know.
picks for
You don't
Mitchell.
have to give up a pick for Garland. He would.
I don't at 44 million a year or 40 million a year for the next 3 years. I don't know how many people really want him. That's what
I
I'm
think a
not
lot of people would take that,
sure. Mhm.
considering the way salaries go, and
Yeah.
you're
They
telling him,
also, they also have Dean Wade, who's like a bench guy that they've had for many years. I don't know how much they really believe in that draft pick that they had Jalen Tyson, but they did play him a lot, you
but they
know?
had to due to injuries, and
Right. And Craig Porter Jr., who was a two-way guy well, JD Bickerstaff liked Craig Porter Jr. too, but so did Kenny Atkinson, who I believe was the coach of the year.
okay. So Vegas started them at 54 and a half, moved them to 55 and a half, kept moving up to 56 and a half, and I would say they could have easily moved to 57 or 58, and I'd still be like, oh yeah, I'm taking the over. There's
I'll take the over. I'll
no
take the.
reason for them not to win.
Mhm.
That's why. But I just look at it, and you look at that roster, and it's, can they get over that hump?
Yeah.
They just seem to hit that playoff wall, like you
Like
said.
a lot, we're gonna say this for a lot of teams in this group. Like the real concern starts in April when the playoffs start. That's when we really find out what they're made
Plus,
of.
it's the East, so you have so many bad teams to.
Yeah, and a lot of middling team. Remember, in the first round they played a middling Miami team, and I think they won one game by 50 points. Like just embarrassed them. You know, they're gonna be a team that can embarrass bad teams. I'll just put it that
So
way.
pencil them in for the finals, correct?
I wouldn't say that yet, but I will say I would be stunned if they weren't in the second round. I mean, absolutely stunned. If they lose in the first round with this team, it's gonna be. I mean, you're gonna see potential. Like Don Mitchell's gonna get moved. This one's gonna get like it's gonna be a blow it up situation. This is the most expensive team in the NBA, like in terms of tax dollars. So, yeah, the pressure's on. Adam, we finally did it. We finally lived long enough as a podcast to do a preview where the Orlando Magic might be on the cusp of going to the NBA Finals.
There is not a team for, and it's funny because a lot of
Now, I say on the cusp like I'm being highly optimistic, okay? Like this could blow up in their face. We'll talk about the team.
a
But
lot of predictions. I still have them fourth in the East, third, fourth in the East. Very not as high up as they should be, but they really went all in.
so you're telling me that you have them having home court in the first round? Orlando Magic fans of even 3 years ago would have taken that any day of the week.
Orlando does not have a track record with them. They were bad for so many years, as we mentioned, the Hennigan era.
There's no pedigree. Yeah.
And then they were underachieving. They get in the playoffs 2 years ago, look completely lost. They took Cleveland, I think it was, to 7, and it was just like
Yes.
they blew it completely. Then they
They were the
ready.
sacrificial lamb for Boston. They did win one, but their offense was so bad that
Everybody
even their stout defense, which they had last year, it wasn't enough to really contest with.
The problem was the entire team had all major injuries.
Mhm.
I've never seen like major, like, there's a lot of ticky tack things, but
Well, I'll tell you this. I have never seen the two star players on the same team get the same unique injury. I've never like Paulo Banchero, who had a 50-point game in his first week of the season, tears his oblique muscle, and then Franz Wagner about 2 weeks later has the same thing. And while they're both out, Mo Wagner, one of their better players, he tears his ACL.
he tears ACL, and then Jalen Suggs tears
His shoulder, I thought it was.
something. And
I saw him in the stands for WNBA games more than I saw freaking or college games. Who's he dating? Juju Watkins? Is that who he's dating?
I'm not.
He's dating a very famous female basketball player. I can't remember which one off the top of my head. Jalen Suggs got the bag. He got a big extension. He has shown that he can be a really good two-way player in the NBA. But yeah, he was hurt. He was hurt almost the entire season.
He got hurt. Last year we had said, and by we I mean literally everybody said, your problem is shooting. They tried to get Klay Thompson. Klay opted for Dallas. Then they they didn't trade for KCP. They signed KCP away because they gave more than $5 to him, which is all Denver could afford.
There were rumors they were trying to get Durant, and it didn't happen.
It didn't work. So then, all right, we're gonna go straight up nuclear with our picks. Our team is young. We're not going to develop anybody in the next 4 years.
They've got one more year, Paulo Banchero, on the rookie money because he and also I'm not arguing it. He absolutely deserved that rookie max of 5 years, 240. People can debate whether Franz deserved it the year before that, but that rookie money starts now, and so does Suggs. So
and Suggs got
one more year.
Near max money, and you have Desmond Bane, who. So, like I said, you trade 4 first-round picks for Desmond Bane, who we need shooting. Who's one of the best shooters in the league? Desmond Bane. We're going to get him. We're going to give him. Memphis isn't looking to. as we've mentioned in, I believe it was, well, a different episode, that you're not shopping these players. Everybody's shopped. You just casually talk. They weren't looking to move Bane. If
Mhm.
an offer comes in that you cannot refuse, which
Mhm.
they'd be crazy to, and well, we got to send them out. We got to take that step
If an
back
owner
to.
here and if an owner gets word back from a GM, hey, they're offering 4 firsts, you're gonna take the deal
So
every time.
they have no future draft capital. They gave 4 firsts for him, and they gave 4 seconds to get their second round pick. So they
Mhm.
have all their developmental players in Tristan Da Silva, and you got Jace Richardson this past
Anthony
year.
Black, who Jamal Mosley, who's still the coach there, even though I do think he'll have pressure on him now. Mosley likes Anthony Black. So when Suggs went down, Black started at point guard. He had bad moments. He didn't shoot the ball great. But I do think that he has a future there. Now you bring in Tyus Jones on small money. He can if fit perfectly. Bane is not the perfect player in the NBA, okay? He's the perfect antidote for what Orlando needs.
So they have their roster. Here's a fair toss up question. If they start slow, or if any of them get injured, what are the odds of Mosley finishing out the season?
Um,
Regardless of
I
the
think I
expectations,
think I already said this. I think the pressure's on for Jamal Mosley.
not pressure, what are the odds of him finishing off? Because you got Jenkins and you got Malone who don't have jobs. Malone has a championship 3 years ago now, 4 years ago. When we're
2023, so 2 years ago.
It'll be 3 years
It'll
by.
be 3 by that point.
Yeah. So you have him 3 years.
You
You
got
have
Thibodeau.
Jenkins who overachieved. You have Thibodeau who just, we don't know why he got fired,
Mhm.
but because he was, we do know why he got fired, but we don't know why he wasn't the
If
reason.
they have a bad month in November, I could see the cane getting yanked off the stage. I can see it. I
Only
it's
because there's so many good coaches out there right now.
Mhm. Yep.
I don't see his leash being long at all, especially with the pedigree sitting there. Other than that, Orlando has an extremely.
Defensively they are stout, and I don't think adding Bane or Jones makes that any worse. Bane's actually a good two-way player. So if you have Suggs, Bane, Wagner, Boncaro, John Isaac, who's I think now at this point underrated because his contract's not as toxic as it used to be. He's also playing more games. Carter's a good rebounder, but Todsy's a good shot blocker. You got some pieces there, and then you add in Jace Richardson and Noah Penda as rookies. This is a team that defensively is very stout. My concern is, can Bane fix the offense from being worst in the league to like middle of the pack in the league? That's a big jump. And I just don't know if he can do that yet. You know?
So Vegas has them, they started off at 51.5 and it slid down to 50.5. I would, again, because of the reasons we mentioned, just their lack of a track record and their coach who has a short leash and injuries galore.
And also they're going to be in the tax next year because after all the
Yeah,
spending.
they raised their hand. They said they're in.
Mhm.
So 50.5.
I actually will go under. So they won 41 games last year, but despite all the injuries, I'll still go under because I think they're going to have offensive struggles, even with Bane being added to the mix. I think they're going to have games where, like weeks where they just have to iron out the offense, and there might be trepidation and a lot of talk about the coach being under fire and stuff. So I think 50 wins is possible, but I'll go under. I think they're going to be like a 47-48 win team. But if they go on the road and play an Eastern Conference opponent, I would not count them out because their defense is so good.
I'm going to say there's so many bad teams in the. That's going to be the thing. There's so many bad teams in the East. How are they not going to just get wins without even
So you're
trying?
going over the 50 and a
I'm
half.
going over.
Okay.
And if everything does go in and Bane was the missing piece as they expected, can we pencil them in the finals?
It's possible. I wouldn't pencil. I would pencil it in. I wouldn't put it in ink. Like, there's one team that I mean, if there's one team I actually feel really, really good can make the conference finals again in the East, it's probably New York. But we'll talk about that when we get to them. The thing is, I just have a lot of issues with their offense. I just need to see how it looks with Desmond being added at the 2 spot, and if also they can avoid the injury bug. Let me just ask your general opinion about Paulo and Franz. I know some people think Franz might not be as some people think Franz offensively is not that as good as they think. I think that's crazy. I think he's a really good all around player who makes the offense better with his passing and his rebounding and his ability to get to the free throw line. Paulo Banchero, what is his up? Like, where is his ceiling? Like, do you think he can go higher than where he is at now?
Yes.
But where's that ceiling? Like, do you think he could be a Kevin Durant type where he's at 30 and 8 and 6 assists a game? He was at 26, 7, and 5 last year.
And then got injured, and then there's no reason I can't see him as one of the top power forward in the league.
I think what makes him so dangerous is that once he can make threes, but once he kind of takes that pivot to drive, he's got the ability to sidestep his man, and I think he's a legit 6'9". And it is really hard to stay in front of him once he's doing those pivots and spin moves and he gets to the rim. Like, he's either going to the free throw line, which he does a lot, or he's getting an easy basket. All right, Adam, the Oklahoma City Thunder. I feel like we raise these guys. Like, we've been talking about them so for even when they were really bad and they were, Sam Presti kind of bottomed out in 2020 or 2021 if when they traded away Chris Paul and all that stuff. And they people were like, oh God, they're so terrible. Why are they not trying to get free agents? And then they cultivate a core and they draft a core that develops into what we saw by the end of the 25 season, the best record in the league, the best defense in the league, and the NBA champion, even though they had to go 7 games twice in the playoffs.
And they had the healthiest team in the league. That's, I think, what it came down to is they didn't get injured.
They avoided catastrophic injuries for the most part. There was one with Chet early in the year where he busted his hip, but I wonder now if Chet Adam is just one of those guys, kind of like Anthony Davis, where he just gets banged up all the time, and it's just the level of it's basically like, how serious is the game? If you're in the playoffs and he gets hurt, you just have to play through it. But if it's a regular season, you have to shut him down to save him for the playoffs.
And we had said it. They knew their issue was a lack of size, so they went out and overpaid Hartenstein and stole him from New York. And
he fit really well.
And they got Caruso in, and those two is swapping, the offensive Giddy for the defensive Caruso and the defensive Hartenstein. They knew that was it. However, much like Denver, I think if this team lost SGA, I think that's where their championship would go. If you lose Jalen Williams, I think they would take a hit, but they would still be competitive-ish.
I don't think they could make the finals without Jalen Williams. Like, Jalen really turned me around in that postseason because I didn't know if he could be like
the guy.
That's what we talked about. We talked about when we previewed him in 25. I was like, I don't know if they have the guys if Shea gets double teamed and he struggles to get manufactured points. That's why they got eliminated by Dallas. They had 2 guys in Luka and Kyrie at the time that could get points whenever they wanted, and Shea was the only one. But that turned around in the 2025 where Jalen Williams really made that leap. Chet Holmgren had moments where offensively he showed that potential in the playoffs, but he mostly I felt like his best production was on the defensive end, which blocking shots and altering shots and getting key rebounds and stuff. Jalen is an all NBA talent. I know nobody knew that when he got drafted out of what's
Santa Clara?
Yeah, Santa Clara. But now we see it. Now we see Jalen Williams is an awesome Scottie Pippen type 2-way player.
And there's not much to say about them because they brought the whole team back, and the whole
Everyone's
team was
back except for
completely
Dylan
healthy.
Jones. They let Dylan Jones go.
They were completely healthy. So if this team, the West is way tougher. They have marks on their back, so teams are going to play them
I
harder,
I
knowing they're
wouldn't
the
say way
champion.
tougher for the West, but I would say different. It's a lot different from
The
last year.
West is tougher this year than it was last
I'll
year.
say this. I'll say this. The fly in their ointment, Nikola Jokic, has a better team this year.
They do have a
So
better team. You have the Lakers who are having their last run. We have a whole group of teams who think they're all in, who
mhm.
are spending and they're making moves in this window, like a Golden State having their last run, like the Clippers having their old man, we can do it, we could put together for one run. Those two teams are also were they better than
And these are
last
the
year.
expectations when you win when you win a championship. The next year, which is this one coming up, is okay. Can you do it again? Can you beat all these teams again? And that's going to be the expectations for Oklahoma City. So they're going to have like heightened win projections. And here's the craziest part, Adam: the West being better, that's not even the biggest enemy for the Oklahoma City Thunder. The biggest enemy for the Oklahoma City Thunder is next year's salary cap.
Oh, I thought you were going to say is the Oklahoma City Thunder, where you get sort of complacent and you have that championship
I
hangover that
wouldn't I would
most
say
teams
not
get.
necessarily. I think it's just the fact that they are staring down a lot of salary and they cannot go past the tax. Unless Clay Bennett really believes that it's
Nope,
okay.
they by giving max deals to Jalen and Chet and already having SGA on his supermax and going to get another
And Alex
supermax after that.
Caruso on a new deal on a
So
hefty
they've run out of
contract.
money. So
Mhm.
they are now going to go into that tax and they're going to start going into that double line within a couple years. So their window isn't open forever anymore.
No. That's
So
what we're saying. Like there was no team that did it all correctly and did it quicker in terms of being because they were other than for technically some people said that the in terms of average age the 1977 Portland Trailblazers were the youngest team to win an NBA championship. Whatever, the youngest team to win an NBA championship in the modern era is this Thunder team. They did everything right, Adam, and you still have only 2 years to keep it.
again, they just stayed healthy. I think that was the crux of it because you knew they were going to do everything. It's
But yeah,
just
Chet Holmgren and
defense.
Jalen got the same exact rookie max deal, 5 years, 240. That will probably be super maxed for Jalen because I think he'll be all NBA again.
And
And
there
then
goes your
Shea got
cap,
his. Shea got his.
like you said. Yeah, so Vegas has them. It started them off at 61 and a half. It upped them to 62 and a half. They're
You
going to be the
know,
number one seed again. I know that.
I think I think the defense is gonna carry them through almost all of their wins. They were the best defense in the league, bar none, the whole year. They do have some guys that they add. Now, Thomas Sorber was one of their draft picks towards ACL. So not gonna have him. AJ Mitchell will get will get playing time again. Nikola Topic, who was out with an injury as well from his rookie year last year, we're gonna see him now. I would expect to see him. They brought back Kenrich Williams. They brought back
They brought back everybody.
the other Jalen Williams, who's the center. Cason Wallace is interesting. I can very well see him be a guy who, in a couple of years, gets a big contract elsewhere and does nothing. But he fits well with Oklahoma City.
So 62 and a half.
I'll go over.
Oh,
I'll go over. I mean, this was a 68 win team last year. Say they drop off 5 games, that's still 63 wins.
I'm going to say the West is too hard and too deep, and they're going to, you can't keep it up twice.
That was a hell of a year they had last year, man. Like
Yeah.
their worst month was January, and they were 10-4. That was their worst month. Can you do that? Like the only thing they didn't do, remember, they lost the all important NBA Cup to the Milwaukee Bucks. Do you remember that, Adam?
Mm-hmm.
They did not win the NBA Cup, so they have to avenge that loss. So they might play better in the month of December.
So it's safe to say we could pencil them into the finals?
I think that they'll definitely be in the conference finals. I think Denver has the recipe to beat them. It's one guy who wears 15. And then they have like I'm interested in seeing how Houston does. You know, those LA teams have a lot of veterans on their team. So there are in Minnesota who they dispatched very easily in the conference finals last year. They're not going to be they didn't go away. I would say they're definitely going to make the conference finals at the minimum. I would be stunned if they didn't. Let me ask you this. Do you think Shea's going to lead the league in scoring again? I don't think so. I think he might dial it back a
It's the
little bit.
same. We got the same people for MVP, the same.
What do you think of the notion out there of him being the free throw merchant? That he doesn't have a sexy style of play, that he's not marketable,
Then
that
you just have the refs not bail him out every time, like they did. Like they stopped calling it on Harden, and then all of a sudden he had to go find his jumper again. He
I
couldn't
think
just go over
Shea
the
I think
people.
Shea in terms of his hesitation moves and all that stuff, his spin moves, and is able to get by guys. He's got so much in his bag that I think he's going to be able to get to the line anyways. He also averages 6 assists a game. He controls the offense. All right, Adam, let's talk about the New York Knicks. They finally broke through into the conference final. They eliminated a Celtic team that had kind of tortured them in the regular season, kind of had their number. And Jalen Brunson played great. It seemed like Karl Towns was starting to gel well with the offense when he joined. OG Anunoby took a leap in the playoffs. They got blitzed by the Pacers. They lost in 6. And then, to the surprise of some, they fired their head coach, Tom Thibodeau.
And then they just fired their coach out of nowhere because the coach was the problem, as
Mhm.
opposed to the roster constructed as we've seen with many championship caliber teams. They're top heavy. There's nothing they can do. You don't have a bench.
That's a
And
reputation Thibodeau always had, that he played his starters a
he
lot,
played
and
his
he
starters,
ran
didn't
him to
develop
the
anybody.
ground. He ran him to
And
the ground. Here's the funny part, though. He didn't run him to the ground in terms of, like, they didn't have they actually were kind of free of injuries throughout the playoffs. Brunson played, Bridges, Hart, Towns, Anunoby was healthy. They didn't have injuries. That wasn't the issue. The issue was that their defense was just not good enough with Towns in the middle.
that's the problem with Thibodeau being sort of that defensive master, allegedly. And then you have Towns, who then proceeded to throw Thibodeau under the bus, even though
Mhm.
he's played for him before. And if I recall, threw him under the bus prior. I mean, this team is thinking they could be the Golden State Warriors, and just they were Mark Jackson away from being in the championship again. And they added Clarkson and Brogdon and Yabusele as depth. On paper, you just see Towns, and then you know his limitations. You know what he can do. You know what he
Offensively,
can't do.
he's one of the most gifted centers we've ever had. That's not doubtable. Like, he's 24, 13 rebounds, gets to the free throw line, makes threes. I- He's done a better job in the last 2 seasons, including his last one with Minnesota, of avoiding foul trouble. That's always been a problem with him, especially in the playoffs. He did a better job of that. But defensively, everyone knows that he takes plays off. He's not a guy that wants to be aggressive in terms of shot blocking. He swipes at the ball too much, and that's why he tries to avoid fouls. So he just lets people go by him. It's a problem when you don't really have a backup center, which they don't have. You mentioned Yabusele. He's not a center,
Well, they have
but
Mitchell Robinson, but he was injured for the first half of the year. And
right. Mitchell, I'm glad you mentioned him because he was an interesting wrinkle, because Thibodeau, when he coached in the playoffs, he threw him out there as like a monkey wrench against the Celtics, and it actually worked out well, because even though the one problem he had is that he's a poor free throw shooter and they had to take him off the court sometimes, he was actually able to stop penetration inside and forced him to go outside to take threes. But that can only work so well because Mitchell Robinson has his limitations as well. He's not a scorer.
no, and losing Hartenstein to the Oklahoma
The
City
Thunder.
Thunder
Yeah.
definitely gave that big hole in the center, which Yabusele, nice story. Didn't work out the first time, came back with Philly. Worked out well to get a above average. He got paid more than I think everyone was expecting the Knicks to pay him. But outside of him, Brogdon and Clarkson, they don't have anybody. So maybe.
Well, their bench is better than before, where they were just stuck having to do like, and I'm not trying to slight Miles McBride. He's still on the squad and he did okay for them, but he's not. If he's your sixth man, you're in trouble. And then they had to rely on people like, I think, DeLon Wright. Give me another couple of those kind of hand me downs that they had at the end. Landry Shamet. Like, they got desperate at the end because they were either getting foul trouble from their starters in the playoffs, or they had to give them a blow because the intensity picked up and they had to fight through more screens. And, it just gets more physical in the playoffs. So people need breaks. They can't play 40 to 50 minutes. We had one game in the playoffs where Mikal Bridges played 50 minutes. You can't keep going like that.
And you forgot to mention Campaign, who has been replaced by Brogdon.
Well, he did okay for them.
But no,
Hart
you're saying the bench
Oh,
was
yeah,
was good, and I'm like,
I
well,
did
they
forget to mention Cameron Payne. Josh Hart, he kinda reminds me of Draymond Green or Scotty Barnes. He's just like a Swiss Army knife. He does whatever he can. He's a great rebounder. He's a solid shooter, not a great shooter. He makes timely plays. His defense is solid. Um, they did have to pay a little extra to keep him, so he's in the fold for a couple of more years. I know that Bridges, it's a love-hate relationship now with the Knicks fans because of the fact that he gave up so many draft picks to get him from Brooklyn. And he
they gave
had
up.
games where he played great, and he had games where he played very poorly.
I was gonna say they gave up a ton, and he wasn't that missing piece, as he didn't really fit in most of the time. He
He's
seemed to be
not a
the odd
bad
man out.
player, and he has the potential to go off in games, especially if his three-point shots falling in. But he also has games where he just goes over, you know?
Yeah, and Brunson is getting up in mileage
Yeah.
from
Brunson's
the
a
Thibodeau era.
superstar.
He
I
is,
mean,
but
he's an all NBA guy, you
he's
know?
been breaking down more and more at the end of the seasons lately.
Can you blame him? He's 6 foot nothing, and he's trying to like do everything physically for this team because Towns doesn't want to take up the physicality. Thank God for Anunoby, because Anunoby's the other one who will take on the defensive assignment. He'll make the plays. I know everybody makes the jokes about Sudi Lee in the playoffs when all of a sudden he played like Michael Jordan rechristened, but Anunoby, when he's healthy, is a fantastic player. My problem with OG is that I don't know what his peak is. Some people think that the playoffs version of OG Anunoby we saw last year, like that could be him at his peak in the regular season. I don't think so. He seems to me to be a player who plays well in big games.
When he came over from Toronto, there was health issues,
And he
as
was
did
out. He was
Towns,
injured in
and
New York.
I didn't want to say that. And
hmm
all my notes come down to is if they lose Brunson, that really takes off the team, as they don't have any there. It seems everything runs through Brunson, and you can't just plug in another player to take over that spot.
Yeah.
But with the new coaching system, who knows? This is all based
They
on
they
the
brought in
Thibodeau
Mike
era.
Brown. Now this is I felt like this was a way simpler situation than people make it out. People made it out like it was this ultra complicated thing where the Knicks were looking for all these coaches. What it was is that when they fired Thibodeau, they thought they could just poach a coach away from a team, and I think James Dolan realized, oh, it's not as easy as I thought it was. But they had already fired Thibodeau because they had already made the commitment to make a change without
That
changing the
was
roster. So the last one left was in terms of coaches just you know, sitting on the sidelines to get hired was Mike Brown. So that's who they hired.
and that is sort of the telling tale of the lack of preparedness for this stuff. Oh, we could just get Jason Kidd. We can get Chauncey. We could get anybody. And then every other team was like, no, no, you
You got
can't
to
get
give us
them.
collateral.
And
Correct.
they're like, well, what do
Yeah.
you mean? And Mike Brown did not seem like the first, second, or 17th choice.
He was the last. Now listen, I always mention this. The Lakers won an NBA title in 2020 with probably their fourth or fifth choice as a coach, Frank Vogel. So this isn't out of the realm of possibility. And I'm not trying to demean the importance of a head coach. They're important. And Mike Brown showed that he can coach offense in Sacramento. He had before that, he had a reputation as being this like really good defensive coach in Cleveland when he was an assistant in Golden State. But his offenses when he coached in Sacramento were very, very good. He's inheriting a good offense. Now, can the defense, which was at times good in the regular season, can he get it up another notch in the playoffs? That's to be determined because Thibodeau, I thought, did some good like defensive strategy things in the playoffs that I don't know Mike Brown necessarily can do with this roster.
We'll find out.
They're hard capped, obviously, or they're not going to be able to make too many moves after they made the additions of Clarkson on buyout, and then Brogdon, you mentioned as well. They can be good fits. They really needed backup guards to just give Jalen Brunson a blow, have somebody at guard if Brunson gets injured, so they can fit in okay. Maybe they can develop Tyler Kolek. Maybe they can also develop the other center that they had drafted in Kepacom Dadi. I'm not sure, but do you think those guys can get any sort of playing time in the Mike Brown system?
Only with injuries, and that's sort of the downfall of the next man up philosophy when all you play as your starters and the next man up is somebody who isn't even close to being ready for it. So just the steep, Brogdon and Clarkson and Mitchell Robinson will be your front of the bench, but the back of the bench, it's just empty.
It is.
And I personally wouldn't want any of those in getting 30 minutes a game, but
Mm,
they're with the East being as wide open as it is, like we started off this segment, they think they're a coach away, so we'll just take them at their word. They've haven't been in this position since how many years?
in terms of like, this is a team that could
A
go to the
championship
NBA
caliber team,
Finals. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, last year some people would have said that. Now the thing is, the Towns deal happened after media day. So it was kind of a blitz. So once that deal happened, I think a lot of people felt decent about the Knicks, but the
I
Celtics
mean, we have to go
going.
way back to when they
Yeah, I
were
mean, in terms
this
of like
good.
going into the regular season thinking, oh yeah, this is a team that I can envision in the NBA Finals, probably 1999 or 2000. Well, maybe 2000. A
Yeah,
lot
in
of people
that
probably thought they
range.
could get that far, and it's been just the doldrums ever since. They had a couple good years with Carmelo, but not to that level. So where are they at for the wins on over unders?
Vegas has them started off at 51.5, moved them up to 52.5.
I would actually feel okay, and they won 51 last year. So it's right on line with what they did last year. I would actually feel okay with going over. I think they might actually slightly overachieve in the regular season because they want to make sure they have the home court for their first couple of rounds. I also think that they're determined to prove that the coach was the problem and not them. So I wonder if you're going to get an extra motivated Anunoby and Towns. I'm not sure about Bridges. When it comes to Hart and Brunson in terms of effort in the regular season, you never need to worry about that. Like, they're gonna play their asses off. That's just built in them. Anunoby and Towns, it's injuries, and for Towns, it's motivation. I think they're gonna come out motivated this year. Do you feel okay about going over 52?
I have the over because the East is a lot worse.
It
And I
is.
mean, a lot worse than it was
I mean,
last year.
Cleveland doubled down, but Boston, who they eliminated, took a hit. Indiana, obviously, with the Tyrese Halliburton and Miles Turner departures and injuries, like they're going to take a hit. Those were the teams that were out. Those are the other teams that were in the hunt last year. There are other teams that are on the rise that we're talking about on this episode, but I can see an alleyway for them to get to the conference finals and be there just like they were last year, to be one series away from going to the NBA finals. Like, it's possible. I I don't feel great about them going to the finals. I don't feel great about any of the East teams going to the finals right now.
You
One of
you
them.
stole my question of is it safe to say we could pencil them in for the finals? But you
No, I
seemed
mean, I can, because because the thing is, if Cleveland just plays better in the playoffs, they can beat New York, Orlando. I don't know. I don't know how good their offense can be. But the Knicks are the one I feel the most confident in that can make the conference finals. That I can definitely say. They have gradually done this. So they went to the conference semis in 2023 and 24. They got to the conference finals in 25. If you look at the process, this is the next step. So I can definitely, I feel good about them going to the conference finals. Can they get over that? I mean, Mike Brown's their coach. Like, you do think about that in the back of your mind. All right, Adam, the Denver Nuggets, a little bit of a wild ride at the very end for what seemed like a kind of a smooth season for them up to that point. they hit a real lull in the month of March, even though they were a perennial playoff team all season long. And then right before the regular season ended, they fired the coach that had helped them win an NBA championship in 2023, Mike Malone, who had also been coaching there for at least 6 seasons. And they they move on without him. I forget his name. David Adelman winds up being the interim head coach. They push through. They beat the Clippers in 7 games in the first round, and then they pushed the best team in the league last year, the Thunder, right to the limit until they just crapped out in the 7th game, and Oklahoma City blew them out in their building.
It was completely. I don't think I've seen anything crazier than that. Of what last week of the season, you fire your coach and the
It was
GM
shocking. It was
you're
genuinely shocking.
because you're so tired of listening to them complain about each other and saying how the other one's the problem.
Well, when you're saying that, you mean him and at the
The
time, the
ownership and
GM.
upper management saying,
Yeah, the
"Okay, I'm
GM,
done with
Calvin
both of
Booth.
you."
Yeah, yeah.
It's extremely rare to do that, and the fact that Denver completely didn't wilt and fell apart immediately is kind of nice. However, the it's the official end of that championship team with those firings, and now the rebuild starts, and they bulked up.
Well,
I think the best
I
you
wouldn't
possibly
call it
could.
I wouldn't call it a rebuild yet because they still have, even though they did flip Michael Porter Jr. for Cam Johnson, they do still have a lot of pieces and re-signed a lot of the pieces that had been in the fold anyways. Jamal Murray, Christian Braun, who they're going to probably have to give a rookie extension to very soon, Aaron Gordon, and obviously, or you could say arguably and
I mean,
arguably.
rebuild as in there's no need to rebuild. They got under the taxes.
But what I'm saying is about Jokic. You got Jokic.
Yeah,
You
you got
got the best
Jokic.
player in the world, you know?
They were able, of course, everything goes around Jokic, but they realized we can't keep doing it with the same core. We can't just whittle our pieces away as they had Bruce Brown get
Yeah,
picked. They got
he got
KCP.
plucked at the time,
They
yeah.
got KCP get plucked. And that's 2 years in a row. I was like, well, we can't keep doing this.
And the
We
draft, they weren't hitting, or Mike Malone wasn't fond of them because
That
he didn't
was the
fit in their
problem
system. We don't know
was
yet.
they Booth's strategy was I know I'm going to lose these pieces, but it's because I know my ownership won't pay. So I'm going to get these 4 late round first, early seconds, and they're going to do it. But apparently he decided to get people he wanted and not Malone
Yeah,
wanted.
and
And
I mean, there's some of them are still there. Peyton Watson, Julian Strawther, Jalen Pickett, Zeke Naji, who got a kind of a small extension maybe a year ago. They just haven't worked out. Russell Westbrook was an odd thing because when he got added, people were just like, "What? This doesn't make sense." But he actually fit okay with Jokic.
he
So
fit okay, but he was what they thought.
he was a turnover machine. He
He
was
wasn't
an
the missing
Achilles
piece and he
heel in the
cost them game.
playoffs. Yeah.
Exactly, which everyone called correctly.
Right.
So, with that said, I would like to say that I believe that they won the offseason by completely retooling their bench.
Well, they
Like,
got ring chasers. They got guys who took less, who were beyond that talent level to just go there to play.
well,
Tim
okay,
Hardaway
so
Jr., Jonas Valanciunas.
you lose Porter Jr., you get Valanciunas, who didn't want to come there, but you traded Saric, who didn't play at
Oh no,
all.
he did nothing. They signed him on MLE money and he did nothing.
You
Yeah,
got Bruce Brown, who's like, I missed y'all. I want to come back for nothing. You get
right.
Tim Hardaway, surprisingly, for nothing. I don't know why there wasn't a market for him. And you traded Porter for Cam Johnson, who everyone's like, yeah, he's a
A
cheaper,
great
stripped down
3-point shooter.
version.
Yeah.
He should, the key term is should fit
Mhm.
in easily. But if he doesn't, we know then they're kind of doomed. So by replacing, by getting Hardaway, Brown, and we had Deron Holmes, who had an Achilles tear in summer
Yeah,
league
he didn't
last
play a
year.
minute and he's expected to get to be
So,
he's
like you
expected to be in
said,
the rotation is what I meant.
getting Julian Strother and
Watson.
yeah, those guys are gone because you got 2 guys who are way better than you on the bench. So their bench is completely solid now, so you don't have to rely on Jamal Murray being terrible for 45 minutes and Christian
Jamal
Braun.
Murray, we've talked about him so many times on the show. I enjoy watching him because when he plays well, he's very mercurial. When he plays well, he runs hot. Like he won't miss a shot. Then he'll have those games, and we saw him in the Thunder series and then the Clipper series where he you don't even know he's on the court. Like, and he's just turning the ball over left and right and just poisoning the well on the court. He's a fantastic player. You need him. Now his contract is very expensive going forward, over 50 million a year for the next 4 years. Yes, that's some people might see that as toxic down the road, but you had to keep Murray in the fold in order to convince Jokic we're trying to win. And he also has a player option in 2 years. I'm not saying Jokic is going to consider leaving Denver, but you do have to keep him happy.
Murray or
No,
Jokic?
Jokic.
Jokic
Has a player option in
it's
27.
always yeah, of course he's gonna wait to get every possible if he wants to play, because he's also like, I don't want to play, I just want to go race horses back
Oh,
in
you
Serbia.
think he wants to start that new international league with LeBron and Rich Paul? Is that what you're trying to say? The
So
one that
as far as he is there, he will always be in the MVP conversation.
the PER leader, yes,
He
all
is
that
his
stuff.
numbers, what he does. It's because the fact, I think he's so disinterested, and Durant's the same way. They just make it look so easy, and the fact that they don't care, you just sort of dismiss it.
Do you
And
think Jokic is the best basketball player in the world right now?
yes,
By a wide margin or a slim margin compared to
by a
Giannis
wide
and
margin, because he's
compared
putting
to Giannis and Shea and I'm trying to think of other ones we could consider even Embiid when he's healthy. Like you would say definitely above
he
that.
is putting up stat lines that had never been seen in the history of the NBA.
Mhm.
So this isn't like he's the best of the year. He's putting up numbers that you've never seen. You've never seen
He's even
Jordan do it.
putting
You
up
ever seen Dr.
he's
J?
putting up in he had a 60-point game in a game where they lost to the Wizards. And that was right around that time that they were slumping when the firing happened. So, like, sometimes Jokic's best is not good enough. Now, Jokic's best is good enough to get him to, the 7th game of the second round when they barely had anything left. Aaron Gordon had a bum shoulder, or a hamstring issue. Michael Porter Jr. was the one with the bum shoulder, and they still almost beat the Thunder, which was a miracle, you know?
I know, and they're gonna again. Of course, that is if Jokic gets injured, then this team is straight up lottery
Well,
bound
he's
because they're in the
Jokic is a
West.
matchup nightmare, and you can ask the people who played for the Thunder and played for the Clippers who got eliminated by them. Like he is just impossible to match up with. They fear him. Coaches fear him. They know what he can do. Pretty much by himself. There were times I was watching him in the playoffs where I thought he was coaching the team. He's just he's one of those quiet leaders, but he's a very some people think he's not competitive because he's got that stoic, laissez-faire attitude. He's a very competitive player. You're just not watching the games.
Yep, and Vegas has them started off. They put them at 53.5. They went up to 54.5, and then right back down to 53.5.
I'm okay with going over because I felt like last year was a struggle and they still had 50 wins. So I think they're not going to have too much trepidation, and they're going to try to chase Oklahoma City to get home court so that if they go 7 games again, they'll get home court this
I
time.
mean, they're solidly the number 2 seed on
I
paper
in the
before
West, I
everything.
agree with
In the
that.
West,
I do, yeah.
it's them in Oklahoma City, and then everyone else is behind them. It's safe to say, again, as long as they're healthy and as long as Jokic is happy, I don't see the usage rate changing. I don't see anything really happening. I don't think
Johnson's an off guard, so I don't think they're going to have to change the offense too much for
that's
Cam.
what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
They're not gonna swap anything out. It's just the number of the jersey will be different in that lineup, but the plays won't be different. Nothing is going to be different on this team, so it's just gonna be business as usual. So there's no reason to
Yeah.
believe that we wouldn't have this same result next year. I
Are
will,
you
of
are you
course.
worried about the advanced age of Aaron Gordon? He's
No,
got a few years tacked onto his deal, and he's a good player. He is. Everyone saw that miraculous alley-oop where they beat the Clippers at the end. He played solid in the playoffs. I am curious to see. I know that Jamal Murray had 6 assists a game, but sometimes he's not the ball handler at guard. I wonder if they're going to test out Christian Braun as a ball handler. Do you think that's possible?
The advanced age of 30. He has 2 years left.
I felt like he got into the league at 19 or 20. I don't know. It feels like
Start
it's been
yeah,
there
he was a
forever.
freshman.
Yeah.
It's starting to decline, but he's still there. Their window with taxes and all, and as they saw they got out of it. Their window is short as well, and especially if Jokic starts getting 70, 80 million, well, you can't really keep everybody
Yeah.
anyways. But that's a different story. We are talking about this year, and like I said, having Deron Holmes being that what they thought he would be last year, the expectations on him are extremely high.
Yeah.
Christian Braun up for an extension. We had said it'll be a lot easier if he can slide in and replace KCP, and he essentially did.
Pretty much, and he's a great 3-point shooter, but you don't want to go too high in volume on Braun because you just want to try to keep him at an efficient rate. But that's the danger of when you pay these guys. Once you pay these guys, okay, I need the ball more, and well, if you give the ball more, the efficiency goes down. The one thing too is that even though they were an up-tempo team, they're a great offense, first in field goal percentage. They were 27th in threes made with Hardaway and Brown and Cam. I have to think that's going to go up. They're going to shoot a lot more threes, is what I would assume.
I don't think there'll be any difference between what it was. Why are you gonna for Cam Johnson, who still realistically is the third to fourth option on that team, the same way Michael Porter was? I don't think they're gonna reinvent the wheel for him.
Well,
But
it's an inside-out game too with Jokic, so you don't want to change that too drastically. I totally understand that. Gordon's a good passer too. Like they just have an offense that flows well because they have guys that know how to find other guys. The problem is once the others start to have their struggles and it just becomes the Nikola Jokic show, is that good enough to beat the really good ones?
so is it safe to say we could pencil them into the finals?
Oh no. Oh no, 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 no. I can't do it. Not with the Thunder there. I could see a scenario where they meet again. That's definitely possible. In fact, I would bet on it that the Nuggets and the Thunder are going to somehow meet again, whether it be the second round of the conference finals. But I can't say for sure. I think Jokic might win MVP again. That's not like a wild guess. I mean, he's always in the running, but I think he might win it again.
Okay, but there's no reason to expect them to be a difficult matchup every game. And of course, we said that, and they lose to the Wizards, like you said, and Jokic scored 60. It's like that doesn't make any sense. But when the playoffs come, they know what to do. They
Mhm.
will be an extremely hard out, as they always will be. And now that they're better, I expect them to be even much more difficult than they were last year.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Adam, the Houston Rockets under Ime Udoka, they finally started to break through. They had a good finish to the previous season where they just missed the playoffs. Then they were definitely in that playoff scenario. They lost in 7 games to the Warriors because their young guys, some of them stepped up and some like Jalen Green, who had a good regular season, probably his best season as a player, really struggled in the postseason. And then Rafal Stone and Rockets ownership decided to go for it, and they swung a deal where Green got traded to Phoenix for Kevin Durant.
Yes, this is the team everyone else has said won the offseason. And I
I
need
have a
some
question
convincing
mark
on it.
attached to that. Yeah, I would say the same.
They gave away 2 starters for 1 starter who is how old is Durant?
You also
37
gave
now?
away I would say actually Amen is their best defensive player, but you gave away your second best defensive player, Dylan
You
Brooks.
yeah, and you gave it away for Durant, and you answered the question. Thompson is the best defensive player, and the season I think he is the linchpin for this team because with getting rid of Green and Brooks, he is going to have to be starter, and he is the one who's going to have to now have an MIP like year if this
Mhm.
team wants to make it
And
to the
he was and
finals.
he's on track for it. Like, the thing about Amen Thompson, so he had 14 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, 56% from the field, a steal and a half. He and a block. So this is a guy who just does it all. But here's the thing that was interesting about Amen, because his twin brother Osar, who's also a very talented player, is in Detroit. Amen in the playoffs against the Warriors took another step offensively where you're like, holy cow, this is a guy that might average like 18, 8, and 5. And if
So
he's at that level, he is MIP candidate type of guy.
yeah, they need him to do something. The other signings of they got Dorian Finney-Smith in
Yeah,
that
they
trade,
gave him the full mid-level exception, yes.
and then they got Clint Capella, which I don't understand. I mean, I'm
Backup
sorry, they got
center.
Josh Okogie with the Durant trade. Dorian Finney-Smith they did sign, so I don't really understand that. And they gave a big extension to Jabari Smith, whom it's been hard to see people defend that. He's the fifth option on this team.
Yeah, he gets a
So
lot of minutes and he can shoot threes, which was known about him when he got to the league, but he's had growing pains. He had an injury that really took him out. I don't know if it was this past season or the one before it, but he was out for a long time. He did have his moments where he showed promise. He would have a 30-point game every now and then. But yeah, for Jabari Smith to get, the big rookie extension, especially after you're letting Jalen Green walk out the door, not walk out the door, but you're sending him off. There were people who really liked Jalen Green. They thought that he was developing. Yes, he had a very poor first round playoff performance, but he was a good player.
but he was young. He's not supposed to. How rare is it for the player in the look at Oklahoma City in their first round once they first got in, they got swept immediately, didn't they?
Yes, they
Yeah,
did.
when their first introduction. This is what happens to young players. It's a whole new level. They just I'm regular season, I'm balling, and then oops, that
Yeah.
happened fast. Like it just that
And
escalated
and they and
quickly.
they have their mixture of veterans, which I think is going to be the thing that really bolsters them. So we didn't even mention Şengün. Şengün's a fantastic player. He does have his pitfalls. He's a poor free throw shooter. He gets in foul trouble. Defensively, he's stout, but he has to be careful. But in terms of his offensive production, he's a double-double guy. He's like a 20 and 10 guy. He's also a good assist man. He's just a very talented player. With Durant, though, the veteranship is key. You have Fred VanVleet, who came back on smaller money. You also have Steven Adams, who they actually kind of threw into the lineup in the Golden State series, and he actually played really well at the 5 spot. You mentioned Dorian Finney-Smith, who played for Dallas I believe when they went to the NBA Finals. This is a team that Jeff Green. They do have guys that have been around the block to go with the young guys like Amen, Reed Shepherd, Jabari Smith Jr., Şengün. So it is a good mix.
So the question is, how much will Durant play? He's had a history of
My
injuries,
question is similar. How good can their defense be with Durant playing major minutes?
but you
Because
have Thompson running around sort of covering for him. Although
right, but
Şengün,
Brooks, that was his thing. That was Dylan Brooks's thing. Like sometimes offensively he would be a surprise. He would take like a bunch of threes and make them all. But defensively he was steady. And now you're missing that with Durant. Durant can block shots, he can get steals,
he
but he
can,
takes a
but
lot of play.
you
Superstars take plays off, especially at his age.
how many how many games do we expect from him? And do we expect to see, 36 minutes, 35 minutes again? Or should we start saying maybe we should bring him down to 30 and sort of save him? Because we are poised to be in the finals this year. We're all in
Mhm.
with this trade. We need him to be healthy because if he goes out, now you're relying on Reed Shepherd to step up and
Yeah. The one good thing for Houston is that there is that openness in their offensive like core to let Durant have his 25 points a game. Like, it's not a situation where Durant's got to fit into the Houston off. No, he can come in and just plug in and do his thing. And I don't think it hurts Şengün's points. I don't think it hurts Fred VanVleet. I don't think it hurts Tari Eason or any of those guys. They're going to be able to get whatever they average normally with or without Durant. Durant, like you've always said, the greatest plug and play player of all time. Like, you just put him in, he can immediately produce without messing with the rest of the lineup.
So Vegas, again, I marked them as the offseason winner. Straight up 55.5. Haven't touched it.
I would actually go under. So they won 52 games last year, and they overachieved. They overachieved in regular season, despite the first round exit. I would actually go under that. I think they'll probably just do the same amount of wins this coming year, around 50 52 wins.
I also have the under, and I've already gone in.
They're going to be dangerous in the playoffs. When you have Kevin Durant with a good defensive team, you're a dangerous team, period.
It's hard to, which is why I had, just Denver saying, oh, yeah, they're the second best team. You're betting on Thompson making that leap. You're betting on Jabari Smith making some leap. You're betting on Durant staying healthy. These are all new pieces that are coming in, whereas Denver, they just swapped out one player, whereas there are 3 major changes, being Green and then Brooks, and you have Durant coming in. Therefore, Thompson has to move over.
Yeah, they have other guys that they kind of kept in the. You mentioned Koji being
and
added.
Cam Whitmore, they had to jettison because they had too many bodies.
Yeah.
So Tari Eason.
They kept Jason Tate. They kept Aaron Holiday.
Yeah, those are just ended. But Tari Eason he's up for an extension too. So everyone's expecting a leap from him too. And there's a lot of expectations on this Houston team, but we can pencil them into the finals, right?
No. I would say that this is a team that, man, like it really depends. The West is stacked, so it just depends on your first round matchup. I mean, we saw Durant go to Phoenix, and in his second year there, they go to the first round against Minnesota, and Minnesota waxed them. So you never know. I will say this for Durant, there has been always some issues in terms of maybe he just was in the wrong place at the wrong time. I think Durant's ability to contribute is perfect for what Houston needed, because you could tell in the Golden State series that was what was missing. They needed someone down the stretch that could close games. And my thing is just, can the defense stay that way? Can VanVleet still be a good player in crunch time and not because he's getting older. VanVleet's not getting younger. So is he going to take a pitfall?
VanVleet also likes to call VanVleet's number.
Oh, he loves taking shots.
That's the
he
problem.
He loves taking shots, especially in the fourth quarter. He wants to take the shots. He's also the leader in assists. I don't know if that's going to stay that way. I wonder if Şengün's going to get like the primary ball handler.
They're going to start shifting that around, because it was exposed last year. Oh yeah, just let VanVleet think he can play hero ball, and it more times than not last year it seemed to not work exactly for him.
Yeah, and I worry about how they balance the 3 spot with Amen, DFS, and Tari. That's going to be, I don't know. It feels a little bogged down, like a lot of people playing the same position kind of thing. But Amen is such a great fit. I bet he could play the 4 and get away with it, to be honest with you.
I would sure hope so. I mean, they're sort of hoping, because if Durant has a night off, or because he's 37, he's not.
No, he's not. I mean, time's catching up with. He's one of the most. He might be the most efficient offensive player ever. but he's not getting younger either.
You can't run him into the ground. Mm-hmm. So they need to. Udoka has a lot on his plate of how to manage this roster this year, because
the ceiling on this team is high, though. Like, if they were in the finals, I wouldn't be shocked.
The ceiling is high, but let's say Durant goes out. How far would they fall without him?
Oh man, they first round and out.
Okay.
I mean, if they don't have Durant, for sure. Especially given that you swapped out Jalen Green and Dillon Brooks for him. If you don't have him, like, what is Dorian Finney-Smith going to fit that role? He can do it okay, but I don't think he can he's not going to be at the level of a Durant. But that it is a talented team. It's a good mixture of young and old. Ime Udoka is always focused on defense. They're going to be a defensive team. I just think they're going to take a hit with Durant starting most of the games. All right, Adam, the Minnesota Timberwolves. This is a team that very sneakily, you see, that's an adverb, got to the conference finals 2 years in a row. Do you think they can make it a third time?
The first time they weren't expected and overachieved. The second time they had expectations and it got a lot harder.
There are
And
some people that'll say they got lucky against Golden State. I don't want to be one of those people. I thought they kind of had checkmate on them, but even before the Curry injury.
And now they've reached the point where they've spent too much and everything is slowly getting picked apart for them.
Yes.
However, we said at the end of the year that you can only pick two of the three, being Nas Reed and Nikhil Walker-Alexander and
Jaden McDaniels.
Jaden McDaniel. You can only pick two of those three. And you gave Nas Reed $25 million a year, and everyone was like, why'd you do that? Because Gobert
They gave him the full money, basically 5 years for 125, right?
Because Gobert is sliding down and getting up there in age. So this way Nas Reed can slide in and replace him.
I think the debate there is not necessarily because he was the sixth man of the year in 24, and he did well in 25. He was a candidate again the next year. He struggled in the playoffs. So there were some people that just thought, man, Reed is just not doing it for me because in the playoffs, because he wasn't as productive as he was before that. McDaniels is terrific. He took a jump in the playoffs for sure offensively. Defensively, everyone knew how good he was, and he already got his extension the year before. Nikhil Alexander Walker was tough to let go, but like you said, because of the financial cap strap, they just didn't have the money to keep him, and Atlanta signed him. I thought he was a really good defensive guard, but I don't think he was an absolute must to keep.
He wasn't, but they didn't replace him.
Well, you got Dante DiVincenzo, who was already on the lineup, and he kind of is in the same spot as him. He's just better offensively than defensively compared to NAW.
They did get lucky, as we have mentioned. We hammer this in that you need to hit on your draft, and Terrence Shannon seems to be somebody they can, a cheap money player. They can.
Well, he had legal trouble. That's why he fell when he got drafted the first time. But yeah, he only averaged 4 points.
He fell, but it's not like he was a top 5 player who.
Well, here's what I'm saying. He averaged 11 minutes and 4 points, but in the playoffs, you could see he has a strong body. He can get to the free throw line. He just has the type of body that can last in the league at the guard spot. Rob Dillingham is an experiment, but maybe
he was young coming in, and we knew that was the case.
That's what I was going to say. Maybe he'll learn by the time Mike Conley, who's still on the squad, he's going to probably be in his last legs. I would have to assume this might be his last season.
That's what sort of this hinges on, is how much does he have left in the tank? Because realistically, who do they? Dillingham, like you said, you're out on him. I was just like, it was year one. He was Kentucky. That was the end of that Kentucky dynasty where Rick Pitino fell apart and everything went south. So it takes time for point guards to get it. So you're sitting behind Connolly. Expectations for him were kind of low. It was just making it on the court, which he did in his first year. This year, he has to show something. And if Connolly goes, you have nothing, because we've seen Edwards can't do everything himself, even though he tries to and has the attitude that he can. But other than that, you re-signed Julius Randle. You got Nas Reed as former 6 man of the year.
I will say about the Randall one, I don't think it was baked in that he was getting the extension when he was acquired by Minnesota in exchange for Towns. I think Timberwolves had paid tax, and the new ownership, which is now that's been resolved, Mark Lowry and Alex Rodriguez, Glenn Taylor's out. They just didn't want to keep paying tax. They're like, okay, we got to get out of it. So they traded Towns for Randall. But I don't think it was a promise that he was going to re-sign. But he did eventually re-sign there, and he signed a 3-year, $100 million deal to stay there.
Well, he had an option, and there was, what is he going to do? And
he also played well in the playoffs. Talking about Randall.
It took a while, like you had mentioned with the New York segment, since it happened so late it took a long time for both these teams to find their footing, and because
Hmm.
you have to change everything going from
Yeah.
a
They
player like
finally
Towns.
figured out what I think a lot of teams that had already had Randall in the past, because this is like his fourth or fifth team that they finally figured out, is that Randall actually is like a triple double type of guy. He can actually pass and handle the ball. Once they started letting him handle the ball and not just let Edwards just pound pound pound, then they realized, oh, okay, we can do more with the offense than we thought we could with just Edwards. And Edwards, we talked about it a lot throughout the season. I don't put a lot of the blame on him for the offense being as predictable as it was. I think he had a lot of pressure on him because Randall was trying to get acclimated. He was forcing a lot of threes. He led the league in made threes per game at 4 a game. And his ball handling is not his primary skill. Scoring is his primary skill.
So Vegas put them solidly at 49.5.
This is the hardest one. I mean, because that is right on line. They won 49 games last year. Can I call it a push? Or can I maybe just say,
They're going to
don't
tie and give them a
know?
half game.
Yeah, like I'll you said 49.5 right now.
49 and a half.
I'll go I will have un the most unsafe over of all time. Cuz like I could see 50 wins, but
It's one you're going to
this
have
is
to think about, and we're going to,
this is
before
right
we
in the wheelhouse. Yeah.
okay, before we lock it in, yeah, this is one I was, because you're in the West. You in the West,
Mhm.
and let's say we get to the end of the season and you have a desperate. Well, I'll get to this point in a
What if
minute.
their shooting goes to the into the pisser like it did in the beginning
And
of the
what if
year?
they start? What if, yeah? What if their shooting goes away, and since the team more or less is still immature, they start yapping like they used to, and all of a sudden Chris Finch is on the hot seat because he can't control his guys, and
Mhm.
there's whole bunch of factors here for a team that's bringing the majority of the core back. Oh well, they lost Josh Minot and Luka Garza. Oh well, that totally means anything, and they got.
Yeah, they bring it. Well, they brought back Joe Ingles, who's a veteran, but yeah, like they I don't know how much they believe in the one they drafted, Joan Berenger, another French center, Jalen Clark, Leonard Miller, Johnny Juzang. I don't know how much they really believe in these guys. I think
But
they
they
just needed to
need
fill the
players.
roster.
They need bodies to develop in the next 3 to 4 years. Because, like they got Jean Berger because Gobert is going to decline sooner than later. So we need a
He
big man
will.
to.
I don't know if it'll be this year. I that was one of my linchpins of like, will he regress? What? How will the defense look if Gobert regresses? I just feel like he's just a guy who's always going to get at least 10 rebounds and 2 blocks a game. It's just what Rudy does. But yeah, in terms of his defense, in terms of his ability to close out and do all these other things, like can Rudy still be effective in that way? Yeah, that can be a concern. I don't think like I know there are people that almost it's so weird about Rudy Gobert. It feels like there are people trolls who just are waiting for him to slip. And I always feel like he's never slipped. He's always been a good player. I think the trade involving him in where they traded all the first rounders, like people think that that was a terrible trade. I thought that was actually just right.
Well, we'll find out what happens with those trades because if they
We're in
drafted
year
garbage.
3 of it, and Minnesota's been in the conference finals 2 years in a row. How is it
That's
a
the
bad
defense
trade?
of we don't need our picks for the next 4 years. We're all in, as we mentioned with Orlando. Like, there's no room for anybody else on this team. So what's the point of keeping a late 20s pick? Let's go in for our guy. Yeah,
Yeah.
I understand the strategy. It's so far it's still paid off, but there's a I'm beginning to see little holes in their safety net as
With NAW gone, do you think DiVincenzo will start and they'll keep Reed as a 6 man? Because they kind
he
of had Reed and DiVincenzo both off the bench.
I don't know
Maybe
because you have
Conley
Connolly.
starts.
Connolly starts with Edwards, McDaniels, Randall, and Rudy, and then DiVincenzo's six man, and you got
Yeah, but
Shannon and Dillingham.
Conley got out of his shooting woes halfway through the year, but he shot poorly to start. So you just wonder maybe they're gonna hope that Dillingham or Shannon can take the spot.
That's at the end of the
Um,
season. Beginning, I don't see DiVincenzo being the starter because why would you bench Connolly? These are things they all have to figure out. But as I've asked every time, so we could pencil them into the finals, right?
no, but I can almost pencil them into the conference finals because I don't see slippage on this team despite losing. Alexander Walker. Like it's about this. I feel like they're running it back. Is that fair to say?
That it is, because if it fails this year, I think you're gonna now have to blow up the team because you're over so many repeater tax
Well,
lines, and
you'll have to trade Rudy or find a way to get rid of
you'll
Rudy.
have to
Yeah.
shake things up. You can't bring this back.
Yeah.
They brought back the team the second time. Now they're essentially bringing them back again.
Hmm.
You can't keep bringing back teams who keep falling short. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, with this championship caliber team, especially in the West, it's all going to come down to the last 2 weeks of the season and matchups.
Yeah, I hope their offense gets more creative. I don't know what they can do because they didn't, like I said, like we talked about, they didn't really add a lot of like pizzazz to their lineup in terms of offense. But like, I enjoy watching Edwards not just because of the dunks and the edit and the swag. Like, I know this sounds crazy, but hear me out. He reminds me of Michael Jordan in terms of when I grew up and watched Michael. That is exactly how he played, except that Michael didn't take as many threes in the 90s and 80s because that wasn't an in vogue thing for superstars, but he plays like him. So I do enjoy watching Minnesota play. I just think their offense is very vanilla.
It's vanilla because it's just Edwards wants everything to run through him at all times. And
And Gobert is the center. Right.
you can't, how many wrinkles can you have with that lineup of McDaniels is just a 3 and D. He's nothing more. And he's good at that. He's good
Very.
at what he does, but he has his limited role.
Hmm.
Gobert has his limited role. Edwards is like Luca, where his usage rate is extremely high. So what
Yeah.
else can you do? What wrinkles can you run for this offense? Maybe that's their challenge. But
Yeah.
in the end, this season will be the playoff seeding will be brought down to the last week, where you can have Minnesota going, you know what? If we drop the last 2 games, we can get like a weakened Clippers team, or we can get somebody who there's going to be a lot of strategy at the end of the
I'll
season.
I'll
So
say this about Minnesota: when you play them, you need all hands on deck. If you are one man down, they're going to eliminate you.
this group, we can pencil somebody in, right? Because in theory,
I
with
mean, well, in terms of penciling in, yeah, we could pencil in two of them to go to the NBA Finals if that's what you're talking about.
these
You
teams
know,
are all in, they're
mhm.
ready to go. They will have lots of
Let,
questions to answer if
let me
they
ask you
fail.
this. Let me ask you this question: how confident are you that a team among the seven that we didn't mention could make the NBA Finals?
Well, that's the think they're all in group.
Yeah,
That's the
right.
group that, like Golden State and Atlanta, we made roster moves thinking we can contend in the Clippers, but we
Hmm.
don't.
These are the teams that, as we go into the season, we really feel like, okay, these are the teams that are equipped to get there. I would be shocked if the Thunder are not in the conference finals again, just based
It's
off of the default of having everybody back, having the defense, and having the youth and exuberance and the energy. Houston, I'm not sure. Minnesota is a steady Eddie, to steal a phrase my dad
but
used to say.
between Minnesota, Houston, and Denver, Oklahoma City has to go through two of those
Hmm.
teams
It's a
to get to the
gauntlet.
finals. So that's you're like, I expect to see Oklahoma City there, but you have to go through Denver and Minnesota
In the
and
East,
Houston.
I know this sounds nuts, and I know that Stephen A. Smith will love hearing it. I feel the best about New York because
New
of
York
the
and
talent
Cleveland
level.
should be
Yeah.
there, and anyone behind them, there's
Atlanta's got a
um,
shot, you know.
Atlanta and Milwaukee who think they're all in based
Mhm.
upon their moves.
Orlando, it just depends on how much better the offense is with Bane. That's what it's coming
Realistically, it
down
just
to.
takes who gets hot in April.
Mhm.
Who's
And
going in hot?
I mean, they're all going to be enjoyable teams to watch. I'm going to be fascinated to see the matchups. They all play differently too. Some of them are. I feel like all of these teams offensively have certain talents, but they do play different styles. And like, no, the Nuggets have a unicorn at the five, and the Thunder have an MVP point guard, and the Knicks have like a great center and a great point guard offensively. So, and I don't the Cavaliers are kind of interesting because they have Mitchell, who I think is one of the best guards we've ever had. But they sold out in the regular season. They almost remind me of the Bucks when Giannis became MVP, where it's like they're really good in the regular season, but can they show it in the playoffs? You know, that's really what it comes down to.
Exactly.
You
So,
know,
all right. For this episode, for Andrew Reich, I am Adam Murray. Have a good one.
take care.